You know what I liked about hostel life is the egalitarian. Like, there's no, like, well, I'm a guy, I'll pay. Because everyone is on a budget. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times those budgets are, like, time-related. Like, I have this much amount of money left. You know, I have 6 months worth of money left. And if I pay for your drinks tonight, I have 5 months and 3 weeks left.
Yeah.
So it's just, like, it doesn't even come up.
Yeah.
And so really everyone's on equal footing, and it's just really nice.
Yeah, it's like an alternate universe, because me too, when I was hanging out with the girl, and then it's like, you know, they most of the time when they're traveling, like they don't even expect you to pay at all.
No.
And even if you do pay, but you do kind of like a cheap move, you're like, oh well, she's gonna look at me weird now because I'm being cheap. Not even, doesn't even bat an eye, because everyone's kind of in that situation. If you're in a hostel and you're traveling, you're young, like nobody's rich here, you know. Yeah,
it was weird. I got to Bali, and I mean, you know what it's like. Well, let's talk about the space in a second, but like, you have a limited amount of space. So when someone's like, some like local like hawker is like, hey, buy this like rug or, you know, blanket, I'm like, oh, will you tell me what I can drop out of my bag? Because I can't just take it back with me. I don't have that. So then I remember getting to Bali, and it was like going to some guy I met in Jakarta, or from Jakarta. He was like, I can get us into like a nice, cool, like nice bar or whatever. Like, all right, sure, let's go. But it's like, you know, I had hiking shoes and jeans, and that's it. I mean, I had shorts and jeans, but I had one pair of jeans, so I'll wear those. And then you see people in, like, evening wear. And you're like, what? How? And then you like, oh, they're here for a week. They came with their, like, gowns and shit. And you're like, okay, or, like, nice dresses. And you're like, oh, that's just not a possibility. And so when you're just, like, not in that mode, you really can just, like, who cares if I'm not fashionable? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know? A T-shirt and jeans is fine.
Yeah, I was not looking good out there, but...
Yeah. So tell me about the space. Like, what did you take and what did you not take, and how limited were you?
Well, when I first started, and I think this, from what I've heard of other bicycle tourists, is common, you start out with way more stuff than you need. Mm-hmm. And then within a week, you're like, I never use this. I'm never going to use this. This I will use once a year. I'll buy it if I need it. And then you just toss everything. Yeah. Like, I was in, I think it was in Pennsylvania, and I saw this hunter camp, and I just, like, donated, you know, they weren't there, but I donated my stove and all my cooking stuff. I just realized, like, I'm never going to cook, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just tired. I don't feel like cooking. I'm not going to use this. It's food? Heavy. Yeah, just buy food, and I would usually, like I said, plan to stay near a town and then just eat in town, usually fast food, because in the U.S. that's what's cheapest. Yeah. Fast food is the cheapest. And because I like it more.
I interviewed a homeless lady, and I was like, how are you fat? Like, you know, and she was like, it's, you know, GMOs, and McDonald's is the cheapest, and it's the worst for you. Yeah. But you eat fucking 3 burgers, and it's so much sugar and shit. It's not like, I can't eat a lot. Value. But when I do eat, it's fucking gross. I had those things too, where you like want to gift it to people, where you're like, hey, I don't need the sweatshirt anymore. I just came from the mountains. I'm not going to be in the mountains again, and I don't want this. So take it. And they're like, no, it's too big. I'm like, who cares? You're going to be cold.
Yeah, I definitely gifted some stuff, including money that I forgot to exchange. I forgot I had. And
really?
Then you ask for someone that's going there, and you just give them. You know,
really?
Yeah. Not a lot, but...
I remember staying in hostels where it's like, hey, who needs this kind of cash? I need this. Who wants to trade?
Yeah, that's always better.
You know, I'll give you a good rate, because I got to get rid of it. And it's like, I guess you're just not going anywhere where there's money changers. Dude, that sounds so cool. 1.5 years.
It was.
Did you bike in the rain?
Oh, yeah. Rain or shine. Yeah.
Poncho?
Poncho, and just, you know, listening to a podcast, and you just kind of, you just get used to it. You
would listen to podcasts while you're traveling?
Yeah.
To pass time, I guess.
Usually, like, the first, like, few hours, I try not to, just to, like, just really enjoy the scenery and just kind of be with your thoughts, kind of meditate a little bit. Yeah. But then after a while, it does kind of get a little bit long, and then, you know, put on some music or podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so, especially when it's, like, nothing's going on. I'm always, like, in the woods. People like listen to headphones. I'm like, you want to hear nature? Yeah. Do you do much naturing there?
Oh yeah. Like usually, when I would get to a city, I'd like see the city, and because like the parts that I were in were so mountainous, usually around the city there'll be like some awesome hikes to do. So you find out local transportation to get there, do a day trip, do an awesome hike, a volcano maybe. Yeah. An active volcano.
An active volcano. Oh, wow.
Quite a few active volcanoes in
really?
Central America. Whoa. Yeah. Like you get there and it's like fuming at the top, and there's like, it's like green and like fuming. You're like, what? I've never seen this. What is this?
Wow. So what did you do? Lock your bike up and then just start hiking?
Yeah, so the bike would be locked at the hostel, and then
okay.
and then like in the morning you'd be like talking to people, and and again, if I see a girl that would be alone, like, oh, what are you doing today? Oh, I don't know. Do you want to come hike a volcano? Sure.
Yeah. That is the coolest thing about hostels is like, no, I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff. I shouldn't say coolest, but like how everyone's so social, and be like, you want to come with us to do this?
Yeah.
Hey, new person. And it always like made me feel weird because when I got there, I'm like, oh, you guys must be all old friends. And then you're like, no, one day before you. That's when they got here.
Yeah.
They're not old friends. They're just, they're barely more friends than you are, and you'll be the same level in a day. Yeah, it's so strange. And then somebody else comes the next day and like, oh, I guess you guys all know each other. And you're like, sort of, dude. I don't know that guy's name. I think it's Tim or Tom. Yeah, did you get a lot of that? Like just friendliness?
Yeah, it's like when you're traveling, you're just you're in that open-minded kind of state. You want to try new things, and it's a lot of people like to experience and with people, so you can comment on stuff and not just keep it to yourself and make new friends and stuff like that. And
Do you ever find really braggy people at hostels?
Yeah,
they're weird, huh?
It's usually about bragging about where they've been.
Yeah, for sure.
And the conversation always just kind of goes there. I try to like steer it away, and in fact, like
you start to steer away from where you've been.
Yeah, like I try to avoid mentioning my trip just because I had talked about it so many times that I know that the second I mention my trip, people are going, "Oh my God, tell me everything."
Yeah.
And I'm not the type of person, despite this incident here that would seem contrary to that, but that likes talking about myself a lot. I'd rather learn about new people than just me blabbing about stuff that I already know.
Well, also once you've answered the same question a few times,
hundreds of times,
you figure out the best way to say something, and then you just keep repeating it exactly that way.
You're just like a robot.
Yeah, and so then it's like, there's no joy in this.
Yeah.
I'm just like telling you, I wish you were here yesterday. You could just listen to that conversation.
Once in a while, I just start lying and just make up stuff.
Really?
That's a good tip.
Oh, that's nice. Like what?
I mean, it didn't really relate to that, but usually like when people would ask me like, what I do for a living, because it's such a common question, I usually say like astronaut or something like that. They're like, oh, really, in Ottawa? You're an astronaut? Like, yeah.
But that's crazy. That's a crazy makeup. Yeah, I would never say comedian unless they really pressed me.
Yeah.
It was too much of like a
What's your go-to?
I avoided the question mostly.
Oh.
So like, what do you do in New York? And I'd say, hang out with friends, just walk around. Because they're really, I found they're really just like trying to start a conversation. They're not really interested in the question. They're more interested in like, it's kind of like saying like, how you doing? And you say, fine, how are you? It's like, fine. And it's like, oh, we were both looking to start a conversation, and that was the worst question for it. Because the only answer is fine. Or I'm going to complain and turn somebody off. So really you should ask like different questions like, what's new in your life? Trying new foods lately? Or I don't know, something to lead you into a place that actually can like lead to discussion. Yeah. Or like, oh, who's your favorite sports team? Something where it's like interesting. So when they ask like, what do you do in New York? I think they would just like, talk to me, please.
Yeah.
So then, I would be like, walk around, see movies. And like, oh, what kind of movies? I'm like, I like this and this. And then if they keep pressing you, then it's like, I would say I wouldn't lie. I'd say stand-up comedy. Occasionally I used to lie and say independent contractor. Because it's not a lie, but it's like...
It sounds boring, too.
Yeah, it sounds boring. It's like, oh, cool, forget it. And then I'd be like, what does that entail? They're just like, anyway, well, I'm an accountant. I guess I'm more exciting than you are. It is way social. I love those breakfasts that everyone sits around.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of that. But I kind of like it, though, when people are like, where have you been? Because then it's like, give me ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely do ask people... but I mean, it's not always interesting.
Yeah. But they'll also tell you tips too of like, there's these routes that I found. I don't know if you found them too, especially because you're doing different routes. You're not doing bus stuff, but like, these are the cities people go to, you know? And so it's either you're going down or up or east or west, north or south or east or west, So it's like, there's only a limited amount of, so I would end up running into people 2 countries later.
Yeah.
45 days later in another country, and you're like, what are you doing here? It's like, what do you think they're doing? Same thing you're doing. They're going to see that ruins.
We're doing the obvious path through these countries.
You went around. You went to New Zealand first, then back. You went to fucking Laos and then Cambodia. I went from Thailand, then Cambodia, but it's all the same shit.
Yeah.
But because of that, they're like, oh, you're headed here. you want to go see this thing.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I just missed it, but there's a full moon party in Thailand. Or, oh, hey, there's a fucking vegetable festival going on in 2 weeks I heard about.
Yeah.
And those are like the best tips.
Yeah, like I've had last minute, like literally the day before, completely changed my whole like itinerary for like Argentina just from talking to one guy.
Wow, like what did he say?
Well, he was just explaining what northwestern Argentina was, and I had just never heard of it because I don't do that much research. I was going to start going into Chile and go down that way, but that would have been so much more boring. I was so glad I did it, and I just like randomly just talking to this guy like the night before leaving, and I had a completely amazing experience in northwestern Argentina that I wouldn't have had if I didn't talk to him.
Wow, what'd you do there?
Well,
or what'd you see? I don't know. That's the right question.
I mean, it's I think the landscapes would probably be comparable to like Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, just like crazy rock formations that just don't make sense. Just like lunar landscapes. Just
wow.
Also, it was like the cheapest part of Argentina too, so that was good. And just culturally too, because it's close to Bolivia, it's still kind of indigenous, which you don't really see like I don't think anywhere else in Argentina to that extent. So. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh, wow. Did you have that? Was that a type of cow, a cut of meat? Its stomach, or is it tongue or neck? Maybe it's neck. I met some Argentinian couple. They were telling me, like, that's what you got to get.
I mean, I didn't know what I was getting most of the time. Who knows what it was?
Yeah. That is a cool thing. Like, what'd you get that you were like, this is fucking great? I mean, that thing you were talking about, that fucking big, I don't know how you would describe it, omelet or whatever you said.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I remember getting stuff that were like, just point to it and be like 2. And then you hand them a big bill. They hand you back the change.
Yeah, I definitely ate some like intestines and I think tongue and...
lingua?
Yeah, I've had, chicken feet in my soup.
I love that. You're just like, oh, okay.
Like, am I supposed to eat this? Like, is this just like a decoration?
Garnish? Yeah. What should I know here?
There's no meat on this.
Do you do that where you're looking around at other people eating? And you're like, how are you doing it? God, those are fun. Now it's making me jealous to like get the fuck out back on the road.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But I'm really enjoying being back home to see my family and friends.
Was there a culture shock getting back? It's been a week now, so like...
I wouldn't say quite a shock. There were some few things that was still like stuck in Latin America. I kept saying "por favor" for everything. I couldn't stop myself. I just kept saying it. I was like, "Stop!" I had like, like Tourette's or something.
Yeah.
And in everywhere in Latin America, and actually most of the world, you have to put your toilet paper in like the garbage.
Oh, yeah.
So I kept doing that for a little while. I'm like, oh, shit, I don't do this anymore.
Yeah, those bathrooms are so stinky. They're the same way in South America. We're like, what is that smell? And you're like, it's fucking multiple people's shit. Yeah. Not just one. Multiple people sitting out shit.
Yeah.
Like, when you go to the bathroom here, people don't understand. It's like, it smells because you take a dump, and then you flush it, and pretty soon the smell will dissipate. But that's because all the shit is gone.
Yeah.
But in those bathrooms, the shit is not gone.
No, it stays
remaining. Ugh.
Yeah, it's not the greatest part.
Yeah. Bum guns? Do they have bum guns there?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's like this little hose thing attached to a thing. You just fucking shoot a stream of water up to your ass.
Every toilet in Argentina has a bidet. So
really?
That's pretty culturally different.
Oh.
Argentina is like the European country out of Latin America, or at least they try to be.
Damn, interesting.
So like people smoke, they kiss on the cheek, they eat all their meals super late. For breakfast, they only eat like croissant, coffee, and then like they go out for dinner at like 9. So it's very different from the rest of Latin America.
Weird. Why?
It's well, when the country was being formed, I mean, it's like written in their constitution, I think, as it was explained to me. Yeah, croissants every morning, or else you go to jail. But no, it was just like it was written that they wanted an effort to be like the civilized world and not like the quote unquote barbarians, the indigenous people. And at that time, the civilized world was like Europe,
right.
And they wanted to attract Europeans to come to Argentina because it was such a big country, but they didn't have a lot of people. So that they really modeled themselves after Europe, and they did actually receive a lot of Europeans in Argentina.
Oh, to like get them to settle there.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
so Argentina is like the only country where you see like a lot of white people. Like when I was in Bolivia, people thought I was from Argentina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
because my Spanish was decent at that point. I was white, so they thought I was from Argentina.
Huh. Interesting. What was like the most degenerate country?
Most degenerate?
Like poorest, like grossest.
I mean, Bolivia wasn't that gross, but I think that's the poorest one. Yeah.
Bolivia.
Yeah, and that's also the most indigenous one. It's pretty interesting. They still believe some. Well, I say still. I mean, I shouldn't judge people's beliefs, but they have some interesting beliefs. Like in their capital city of La Paz, they had like a specific kind of indigenous people that lived in that area, and they really believe in Pachamama, which is Mother Earth, I guess. And they believe that if you want success in life, you have to make sacrifices to Mother Earth. So let's say you have an exam coming up, you would have to kill a chicken and bury it and not eat it. That's your to do well on your exam.
What?
And if you have a house, you have to kill a llama, bury it underneath your house so that your house doesn't, burn down or something. And apparently for like big buildings, what sometimes would occur is they would go to homeless people and then offer them these parties where they would just booze them up until they were passed out, and they would bury them alive underneath these buildings. And then like when buildings get destroyed, they often find like remains of people.
What?
And one of the homeless people passed out, and while I think they were burying him alive, managed to escape and wrote a book about it, or maybe someone helped him write the book about it. And the title was "I Was Drunk, but I Remember."
Because no one's going to believe him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a standard thing. That's crazy. Bolivia, to me, always struck me as the country where it's like, when people are like, a place is safe, and I'm like, yeah, mostly everywhere's safe. I'm like,
it felt safe.
A place like Bolivia, be careful. But I don't know why that's always my example of like, no, they're Robbie there.
I mean, I did.
But I haven't been, so I don't know.
I did hear that in Peru and Bolivia, it didn't happen to me, that there is, some occurrences of, but it's usually like minor, like theft, like pickpocketing, or if you just leave your bag somewhere you shouldn't, it might get picked up or something.
You just grab it.
Yeah.
Jon Stewart had an old TV show before he had the Daily Show on UPN, some old network that's not around anymore. And in this game called, I forget what it was called, but it was to see how long it would take someone to take something in New York. And they would just leave something of no value, not like a wallet. And they'd have those windows that were like, how it's like below the ground, but the window is like right on the ground. So like inside, they're like way below. Mm-hmm. But you can see, like if you're looking, all you can see is people's like shoes walking by. So they'd put a camera in those windows. Mm-hmm. And they would take something like, the one I remember is one of those like floaters for kids, like a big thing, it's like a duck,
like
with
the
a
duck,
duck head.
yeah.
And they just walk by and put it down right there, and then start a clock. And you'd see after like 20 seconds, someone stop and like look at it, and then just keep walking. And it's like, no one can use this, and there's no like place. And then after like never got more than a minute before someone's like, I'm taking this. I saw somebody drop their sunglasses here. That's the thing too I want to talk to you about, where people like, I'm sure your friends were like, it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. But like, I saw somebody drop their sunglasses in the Upper West Side, maybe, and I was like, hey, excuse me, you dropped your sunglasses. Like, they were coming towards me. I saw it, and they're like, what? I'm like, you should show up. It was over there. And we went back, and they were gone. I'm just like, what? I'm like, I mean, I saw them fall. She's like, yeah, I can't find them. I'm like, who fucking took them that fast?